Hello and welcome to Success Interviews. These are where I chat to fellow female business owners and find out more about why they started their businesses and how they measure success. And today I'm joined by Louise Goss, who's founder of the Homeworker magazine. And I met Louise from 2 or 3 years ago. It may even have been pre-COVID actually, when I was featured in the magazine. And since then I've been an avid reader of both the online and the printed versions of the magazine. And I think it's a wonderful asset. So Louise, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Thanks so much for having me here. The Homeworker, as you said, it's a print magazine. I also do a digital version and have a sort of a digital platform now with lots of resources for people. Um, when I started it, I had this idea germinating for a little while actually, and it was a bit of a nebulous idea. I just sort of wanted to talk generally about and to people who work from home and dig into it a bit more, how they make it work. So my background is in journalism, so that was kind of where that came from. And just through other work that I'd done and other jobs that I'd had, because I've had quite a sort of varied and quite interesting career over the time, I had kind of just realised how many people were working from home, but doing such a huge variety of things. And as you mentioned, it was pre-COVID. So in 2019, when it all started, it was a sort of a much more smaller percentage of people working from home. So primarily self-employed people, maybe small business owners, freelancers, that sort of thing. But they were all doing such a huge variety of thing. And it wasn't just people crafting or selling things on Etsy, which is perfectly fine, and like loads of people do that really well. But I kind of wanted to dispel the myth that it was, you can also do so many different and wide variety of things from home successfully. And so, there were people who were making stationery from their bedrooms, to people offering BA services like yourself, or coaching, to people who were negotiating billion-dollar deals from their kitchen table. And it was just this huge sort of spectrum, I suppose, of people. And I guess the mission behind it initially started out as wanting to support those who do it and who did it for whatever reason, whether it was because they were running their business from home, or maybe they were, as we later got into in 2020, perhaps it was forced because of situations, because of lockdowns and things. And obviously now much more people are doing it. And so I've sort of really honed in on wanting to help people, not just with sort of tips around doing it, but actually thrive and do it really well and do it successfully and develop healthy habits and perform well when you're working from home. And again, that's evolved as well, because working from home has become a bit more like work from anywhere. When we're working remotely, we can literally be anywhere in many cases. And as you know, Sarah, because I think one of the articles we did was when you were sort of traveling around the world working.
Yeah.
And I came up with 5 key pillars, I suppose, that are foundational to successful remote working. And a lot of the content around the Homeworker hinges on those. And I take it in many different directions, but the well-being side of it is huge. Productivity, business, career management and development when you're home-based, the mindset required, and also your work environment, the workspace that you create for yourself. And so all of these things are very linked and kind of fundamental, I think, ultimately, to like working from home, working remotely successfully. And so the more I've written about this and the more people I've interviewed about it, I've developed my own models now for how to do it successfully and sustainably without burning out, maintaining motivation. And I guess that's the purpose I believe in, is just overall to help people lead fulfilling, balanced, productive and healthy lives, working lives.
Thank you. I absolutely love all of that. And you've pretty much answered the question as to why you started the business as well there, with that intro to the Homeworker. And I love the fact that the Homeworker is fine. It's great. And I love the fact that the Homeworker, it does span, it's not just for self-employed people or freelancers, or businesses, it's for employees that work from home as well. And you've started to really bring that career side into it as well for for people, particularly post-COVID. And I think it's great that you've adapted it in that way as
Yes,
well.
had to
So
evolve quite quickly.
yeah, yeah, but you've done a brilliant job with it. And obviously you work from home yourself, so that's, you've got all that experience yourself of what you're doing in your business.
Yeah, so when I started it, I suppose I'd worked from home for over a decade, so obviously a bit longer now. And so I did have that experience, and I guess I realized when I actually started looking back and kind of unpicking what I was doing, as well as obviously wanting to speak to experts in various different fields. It isn't just necessarily about pulling a chair up at the kitchen table and hoping for the best, because you can do that on a very ad hoc basis day to day. But as I said, if you want to do it sustainably, long term, successfully, without, harming your well-being, your sanity, your productivity, your overall kind of, feelings and health and everything else, then there's quite a lot more to it that we need to dive into, and that's kind of where the magazine comes in.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So for you, how do you measure success? And this is both in your business and for you personally in life. Big question, I know.
It is a big question, and yeah, so I did obviously, knowing that that was what a lot of this interview was about, I was sort of thinking about it quite a lot, and I suppose given the mission that I've just outlined, part of success for me would be that I was helping people achieve that. But it can be hard, I suppose, to measure that, really. I mean, obviously, the evidence you might get is, say, some of the feedback that I get from readers, which has always been overwhelmingly positive, which has been fantastic. So I guess that's pretty good. But it's interesting for me. I guess a lot of people equate success with money, with
Yeah.
wealth. That's the general thing. For me, I guess going into journalism and down that route, I was never going to be successful if that was the metric. So I guess, although it's lovely to have, it's not how I define success for me. And then I thought about, happiness. We all want to be happy. But we have good days, we have bad days. We don't always feel happy. Does that mean that if you're having a bad day, you're not successful? So I was kind of like thinking about it a bit and going, well, actually, maybe for me, as long as I'm doing something that I feel passionate about, that has purpose, that I believe in, and that aligns with my values, and that I feel like I'm making some kind of difference to some people, then that for me is how I would regard myself as being successful. So it's quite general, I suppose. But if all of those are in place, then that will lead to me feeling generally happy, even if it's not every single day. And ultimately, it will also probably lead to, getting some money in the bank. But that's not the measure for me. It's just, as long as the foundational stuff's there, then the rest kind of follows, hopefully. And then on a personal side, on a more personal side with family, I'm a mum as well. I have 2 young children who are growing up fast and very busy and keeping me very active. So I guess it's about balance for me as well. So am I fulfilled mentally with my job, socially with my friendships, with spiritually, and also with my family, with my children? Am I spending enough time with them? And I think, again, when I've got a balance, it's a delicate balance. It doesn't always happen perfectly every day, but generally I can kind of, if I step back and go, right, am I apportioning my time in a good way, and am I getting the balance 90% of the time? Is it right? Then yeah, that's good, and I know, because it feels good, and I think when that feels good, then yeah, that's sort of a bit more about success for me.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. And I love that you said that, obviously the money's important. We all need money, don't we? But actually, feeling good about what you're doing, and that emotional, spiritual, that balance of time is much more important. And that is something that comes through all the interviews so far, and like, people see that as they watch them back. And it seems to me that that is a huge measure for lots and lots of people that we don't talk about. We talk about money all the time, and success in business is seen as being all about money, and often in life and material things. But
Yes.
actually, when you actually talk to people and ask them to give you what is important to them, it's never, money never comes up first, which I find really interesting.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's that old, there's that famous, it's a bit of a cliche now, but if you ask someone on their deathbed what they would rather have spent more
Yeah,
time doing, it was never about, generally, it's never going to be about going into the office and earning more money. It was spending more time with loved ones. It's, doing things that light you up, that,
yeah.
and that there is important, that are important to you. So I think that's, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely critical. And I think that is going to come across to so many people through these interviews. So my last question for you today, it's another big one, is what's one tip, or it might be two tips, some people have had two or more, would you give to your
Or
younger self?
yeah, I think I might be one who has a few more. Um, yeah, again, it was, gosh, when you go back and you think about your childhood, it can be quite it can be quite funny sometimes, thinking about what you would say to that person, because you change as well. And I when I look back and I think about what I was like growing up, the first thing that came to mind when I thought about what I would say to my younger self would be, don't be afraid to fail. Um, it's okay to make mistakes. Um, we all do, but I think the bar for me, I always set it so high, and I still do have a high bar for standards, but I think back then it was, yeah, like, there was a bit of fear there about getting it wrong or being judged for getting it wrong. And I think I'd be saying, look, don't don't be afraid to fail. Um, don't be too proud to ask for help, was another one as well. Again, it can be seen as a sign of weakness. And I've learned, as you grow up, actually, it's a real sign of intelligence and use of and good use of kind of resources, and not burning yourself out. Um, so yeah, there was, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be too proud to ask for help. Trust your gut more, because you're often right. That your gut instinct is often right. And also, you're better than you think. I think I doubted myself a lot, and I do still have moments of self-doubt. We all do. But I think I've, again, yeah, I would have told myself, yeah, you've got this. Like, you're probably you're able than you really give yourself credit for. And then a funny one I thought of, which I just had to add in, was keep up your time blocking. Like, honestly, when I look back, when I was doing my exam revision, I was so good. I had, like, my days mapped out. I had blocks of time for different subjects and what I was going to be revising, and I had time blocked out for lunch and for breaks and for this. And I was like, and then, I don't know, I guess that habit maybe just waned off and a little bit. And obviously, I've come back to it a bit more now. But I mean, yeah, it stood me in good stead. So that's another thing I would say. Keep that up.
Think it's something we have to kind of really learn as adults, because I was like, I remember planning out my revision, and then you forget about it completely once
Yeah,
you kind of get past 18, don't you, and go, right, I'm just going to get on with life now,
life.
and it
Yeah,
doesn't come in.
yeah.
Yeah, and I love that one about not failing. I'm sure there's a famous person that said it, but my husband was the first person that told me this, that fail is a first attempt in learning. And I think we should all know that. We should all have that up on our wall somewhere. I'm pretty sure he didn't coin that. I'm sure he didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, they say, you learn through your failings, and
Yeah,
some people don't even want to call it as a failing, do they? They say it's a learning. It is exactly that. It's, you've made a mistake. I think, we all make mistakes, and as long as they're always made with, good intentions behind them, then it's
yeah,
it's absolutely fine. But it can be hard to deal with and realize in the moment.
yeah. Especially when you're younger. I think with age you get better at it.
Yeah, and learning to be just a bit more vulnerable and open about it and saying, oh,
Yeah.
hands up, I messed up or I made a mistake, but we're all human.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it happens.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Louise. It's been lovely to talk to you, and I hope that people will go and check out some of the other success interviews for inspiration as well. And we'll put some details of how people can contact you in the show notes. Thank you
Brilliant.
and bye.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Bye bye.